This is the iPhone 16 Pro, and for anyone who's never seen or heard of my channel in the past, then firstly, welcome, it's great to have you, but secondly, you should know up front that I am a proper Android enthusiast. And yet, despite this, every single year, I buy one of the latest iPhones and switch my one and only SIM over to it, and I use it as my main everyday device for at least a full month, and then I review it. And so that's exactly what this video is. It's my review of the iPhone 16 Pro, but from the perspective of someone who uses and loves Android phones. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting with design, and let's just start with the obvious. This phone has possibly the most iterative iPhone design since probably the iPhone 6S. Is that a bad thing? No, the iPhone 15 Pro was literally my favorite phone in terms of build and design last year, so I was not all that disappointed to see that the iPhone 16 Pro was pretty much the exact same. However, I will say it does just give the consumer a little less to be excited about. Now, is it exactly the same? Well, no. For one, it's actually ever so slightly taller, the side rails are slightly more polished, and this white variant in particular is slightly cooler in tone compared to the warmer white of last year's variant. Oh, and that's not to mention the new camera control, which we'll come back to later in the video. But would I have appreciated Apple being a little more forward-thinking with the design this year? Yes, of course. I mean, we're now on year 3 of the dynamic island and it hasn't gotten any smaller. The camera bump on the back is still the exact same design as it has been for years. And in fact, it's actually even more protruded now thanks to the larger cameras. And this means when you're using the phone flat on a table, it now wobbles side to side more than any other phone that I've used. So it would have been fantastic if Apple could have addressed both of those slight drawbacks, but does that make this a bad phone in terms of design? Absolutely not. It's just a little boring. And the same is kind of true of the display. Yes, the very slightly thinner bezels are appreciated, and it is still a phenomenally bright and fluid display. And to be honest, boring isn't that bad of a thing when it comes to the display on this phone, because it is still one of the best despite the specs not suggesting as much. But yeah, there's just genuinely nothing to report on in this area. Something that is worth mentioning though is battery life, and I've got to be honest, ever since the iPhone 13 Pro was released, which had just mind-boggling numbers in terms of battery life, it feels like each year we've all been expecting the latest iPhone to at least match those impressive numbers, and yet none of them have been able to. Well, I'm very, very happy to report that finally Apple has done it. They've managed to make the iPhone 16 Pro's battery life just as good as what I experienced with the iPhone 13 Pro. That means most days I'm finishing with above 50% left in the tank, and seemingly no matter what I do with the phone, whether I'm taking lots of pictures or mucking around with home screen setup configurations or using it as a hotspot when my Wi-Fi has been down, I can't even get close to killing this thing in a single day. Now, as far as cameras are concerned, there's actually a couple of subtle yet hugely appreciated changes on the 16 Pro in particular this year. The first of which is that the ultra-wide lens has now been bumped up to a larger 48 megapixel sensor to match the main lens. And the second is that the regular 16 Pro now has that same upgraded 5x telephoto lens that was originally exclusive to last year's Pro Max model. And that is something that I'm super happy to now have on the smaller phone. The only thing I don't love is that it's a 12 megapixel sensor, and if they'd bumped it up to a 48 megapixel shooter, then that would have allowed for a 10x cropped mode like what Samsung and Pixel phones offer. So hopefully that's something that Apple thinks about adding to next year's lineup. But man, yet again, after using this phone for over a month, I just cannot overstate how good the camera shooting experience is with the iPhone 16 Pro. It doesn't matter whether I'm taking landscape photos or photos of people or what lens I'm using or if I'm shooting videos, it is just so hard to get bad looking images or videos with this phone. And particularly if you're someone who takes lots of photos of things that don't stay still, like kids for example, there is truly no better shooting experience than on an iPhone. Check out this portrait photo I got of my 2-year-old. It's like this nice, candid shot of him playing in the park, and it almost looks like I got him posing for the shot, right? Well, check out the screen recording showing the actual photo taking process. This little dude is busy, playing away, doing his thing, he's blurry and out of focus, then I call out his name, he looks at me for like half a second, if that, and boom, I've got this pretty fantastic shot, which, by the way, finished processing instantly. Like, I couldn't see myself capturing that same sort of photo on any other phone with that faster moving subject, even if I tried. And like, even the incredibly seamless transitions between lenses when capturing videos is just so dang underrated. And here's the cool thing, when you're actually shooting a video, especially when you're switching between the main and 5x telephoto lenses, like the transition isn't actually as smooth as you might expect. But then you watch the video back, and those lens switches are somehow made even more seamless to the point where they're almost undetectable. So yeah, whilst you might not be getting overly creative images or videos out of the iPhone 16 Pro, and honestly, photos do have less of a wow factor than shots taken from Pixel phones, for example, but the results are still really, really good, and more importantly, the actual process of capturing them is the most seamless that you'll find on any phone. This right here is one of the biggest reasons to get an iPhone, in my opinion. Now, it would be remiss of me to talk about the cameras without, of course, mentioning the new camera control. And look, I'll be honest, I hardly use the thing. For me, it is just a glorified camera shortcut, but to be honest, even just for that reason alone, I do kind of like it. Like, yes, you can just have a shortcut to your camera on your lock screen, but as far as I'm concerned, it's actually much easier to press something that's tactile to launch the camera compared to a software button, because then you can press it without even looking at your phone. But then as far as using it when the camera app is actually open, man, I've hardly used this thing, and in its current implementation, I can't see many others using it either. Do I think it's cool, and do I tip my hat to Apple for being innovative? You're damn right I do. But much like how the action button hasn't served much purpose to me beyond acting as a shortcut to turning my phone's silent mode on and off, I don't see this button serving much purpose to me beyond launching the camera app and perhaps acting as a nice tactile way to snap a group selfie shot. Okay, before we chat about the software with this phone, if you've bought yourself a brand new iPhone and you're wanting to keep it in pristine condition, then you should absolutely check out the incredible options from today's video sponsor, Caseology. And Caseology have been making cases for over 10 years now, and I really love their whole philosophy of combining solid protection with real class and style. Like, their cases are actually really nice looking, they feel amazing. I mean, this Athlix mag case feels incredible in the hand in particular, but then they also provide a really nice layer of protection for these super expensive devices. And man, if you're into accessories, then you've got to check out these fantastic Folder Pop MagSafe wallets, which, as you can probably tell, are inspired by the folder icon on Mac devices, but as their name indicates, they're also wallets as well, and my goodness, these things are seriously awesome. They also have this incredible snap fit tempered glass screen protector system, which is dead easy to install and has an advanced adhesive that stops any bubbles from forming. So all that to say, if you're looking to protect your phone in style, then definitely check out Caseology using the first link down in the description below. Okay, from there we have the software, and here's what's crazy. Not only is this the first time ever that Apple has shipped a phone with heavily promoted features not yet being available, but it's also the first time in a long time that the phones have shipped with pretty buggy software. Like, not unusably bad buggy, but noticeably more buggy than any iPhone that I've ever reviewed. I mean, the whole process of restoring my iPhone back up from the cloud took forever, which it always does. And by the way, Android phones are way faster than iPhones in this regard. But then even with the process completed, apps that had accounts signed in were kind of broken, forcing me to sign out and back in again. And even my iMessage history didn't get synced across until I searched for some solutions online and had to manually trigger the sync via my MacBook Pro, which also took like 24 hours to complete. Then there's been instances where apps would just randomly cause the springboard to crash, which I don't think I've ever seen on an iPhone. There's been issues with touch display responsiveness and just little quirks across the UI that seems very un-Apple to me. And folks, this has been on the public software build, not the beta releases. And as an Android user, there are still a bunch of missing features that are absolutely baffling to me. Like, how is there no autocorrect when using search bars anywhere across the UI except the settings menu? And speaking of the keyboard, why is the autocorrect so much more inferior than Android's? Like, check this out. If I type this message that says something like, "Hello, how are you?" but then I notice that I misspelt a word, on my Android phone, it understands context and shows that I've made an error, and I can then easily tap that incorrect word once and replace the word with the right one. And also, notice how easy it is for me to place my cursor wherever needed to just quickly edit a single letter. Well, on my iPhone, Not only does it not pick up on my error, but when I go to correct it, I can only go to either the end of the word or the start, or I can double tap to select the whole word, but there's no quick way to correct that one incorrect letter. And yes, I know I can long press and then swipe on my keyboard spacebar to get there, which, by the way, I can also do on my Android phone as well, but that's absolutely not as intuitive or as fast as what I can do on my Android phone. Oh, and then how on earth do we still not have a clipboard feature on iOS? Like, I talked about this in my 6-month later review of the iPhone 15 Pro, so it's not like I was expecting Apple to add the feature with the iPhone 16 Pro, but that doesn't mean it's not incredibly frustrating that it's still missing. I'm also baffled that there's no quick way to turn on or off vibrate. Like, for the most part, I want my phone to vibrate both in loud and silent modes. In fact, particularly in silent mode during the day, so that I know when I've received a new notification, even if my phone is in my pocket or whatever, but so that I'm also not annoying everyone around me with my phone loudly pinging all the time. So that's fine. I can set this haptic setting here to always play or play in silent mode. Except then when I'm going to sleep, I definitely do not want my phone to be vibrating every time I get a notification overnight. And so I have to open up my settings, jump through all these menus until I can finally change this setting to don't play in silent mode. And then I have to go ahead and switch that setting back in the morning. I mean, what on earth is doing? And yes, I did check, there's no way to set up a shortcut or a quick settings toggle that turns the setting on or off. And you can't do it with focus modes either. Like, that's why on Android we have 3 modes: ring, vibrate, and mute. And it's simple. The phone will vibrate in both ring and vibrate modes, and then it won't in silent mode. Like, how is this not a thing that gets talked about more on iOS? Oh, and another thing, how is there no way to quickly dismiss notifications? Like, check this out. Here's me receiving a notification on my Android, and straight away, this is one I don't want to see again, so I can just swipe it away, no problem. On my iPhone 16 Pro, I get the same notification, and nope, there's no way for me to swipe it away. I have to swipe the notification up, then open my notification center, then I can swipe it away to dismiss it. But I mean, what a drag. And speaking of notifications, come on, Apple. How are we at iOS 18 for goodness sakes, and I'm still missing notifications on my iPhone? Like, yes, an app can implement this time-sensitive notification feature, which is all well and good, but like after an hour, the notification still gets hidden from the lock screen. And even more than that, apps have to actually implement the feature. Like WhatsApp, for example, they still have not updated their app to include this time-sensitive notification feature. And I cannot tell you how many WhatsApp messages I've missed over the past month simply because the notifications disappeared from my lock screen or weren't visible in my status bar, like how it works on Android. Don't get me wrong, there are so many aspects about iOS that I truly adore. And I mean, no one does animations like Apple does. Like, oh my goodness, this airdrop animation is like so dang good, it's not even funny. And don't get me started on all of the incredible dynamic island animations. Like, Android could only dream to have animations that good, but for me, it has been so surprising to see just how many basic features iOS has still not gotten right. Now, on a slightly more positive note in terms of software, I'm actually a big fan of the customization related features Apple introduced with iOS 18, and in particular, the fact that we now have the ability to hide icon and widget labels by using this large setting here, as well as the fact that we can move icons around to wherever we want on our home screen. These are 2 features I've been wanting Apple to add for forever now, so I was so excited to see them finally come into play when iOS 18 was announced. And if you're wondering how I set up this pretty crazy looking home screen setup, then I made an entire video covering that exact topic, which I'll link up in the cards. And I've been loving using this home screen setup over the past month. It even changes to this beautiful dark mode version at night. But yeah, all that to say, I can't believe we've gotten to a point where I have more fun customizing an iPhone than I do a Pixel phone. One other exciting software-related thing is that my wallpaper app, Lumina Walls, is now finally available on iOS. The app has been available on Android for quite a few months now, and we've received countless amounts of requests to make it available on iOS, and well, now it is, and I'll leave that linked in the description as well. And the great thing is, if you've made any purchases using the Android app, they get synced across to the iOS app automatically. There's also over 600 free wallpapers available at the time of making this video, with 2 to 3 new free wallpapers getting added every single day. And then there's a bunch of premium collections available too. Or if you just want everything within the app, then you can pay a one-off fee to unlock that forever. And to top it all off, there are no subscriptions, and there never will be. Anyway, look, all that to say, whilst Apple have introduced some really neat changes with iOS 18, I'm kind of shocked that most of the AI features aren't available even on the beta this long after the phone is launched, and many of which have actually been delayed until partway through next year, by the way. And then aside from all of that as well, I just still cannot believe that there are so many fundamental features missing from the software. And honestly, it's those features that make me kind of glad that my time with the iPhone 16 Pro is wrapping up. But Android versus iOS debate aside, if you're someone who has an iPhone 14 Pro or later and your battery is still reliable, you haven't got any storage issues, and it's in relatively good condition, then unless you're an enthusiast, which I am myself, so no judgment if you are, but you definitely do not need to upgrade to this phone. There are just nowhere near enough tangible differences to make the upgrade worth it. But if you are an enthusiast or someone using an iPhone 13 Pro or older, then I can guarantee that you are gonna absolutely love this phone. Now, do I hope Apple makes some more tangible changes when the next iPhone is released? Absolutely. And in fact, I kind of think they have to keep people from looking outside the walled garden. That being said, the iPhone 16 Pro is still, without a doubt, one of the best phones that money can buy right now. And if you pick one up, trust me on this one, you are gonna love it.